All right, everybody, welcome back to Beans No Ball. Here we go. Finally, with the regular season just by the time this video is up, probably less than a week away. We're finally getting the predictions out. This is our long-awaited something that, of course, something really fun for us to do. I don't know about you, Christian, but obviously I've been really going diligently into this. It took me a while to finally figure out. I got a bunch of these teams moved around a lot more than I thought I would, but with the UVF, let's just get right into this. See what you got.
Yeah, I had the same thing with you. I was pretty stumped on a couple divisions. I wanted to be not too accurate, but makes sense. But you get the gist there. But obviously having fun with it. So obviously let's get right to it. Enough of the yapping. So let's start off with the AFC. Starting off with the AFC North. So with my division winner, I have the Bengals going at 12-5. I would have them a little higher, but with Joe Burrow's with his cap injury, I would have had him higher, but I think that was stumbled a bit. So I do think the Bengals take the division at 12-5. The defense is, pretty decent and have some very close games with that. Then I got the Ravens at the next spot going at 11-6. I feel like Lamar, with he had his whole contract situation, all situated, all stuff like that. I feel that Lamar could have a really big season with the Ravens, but with the division that the division they are with the Bengals and obviously how the AFC is, I do got them going at 11-6 spot. Then obviously I got the Steelers going at 10-7, just barely missing the playoffs. There would be really great strides of Kenny Pickett. He will have major improvement, especially with George Pickens at his number one spot. And then with the defense, it's a very, I would say it's a good defense there. But offensively wise, I do think Kenny Pickett would still need a little bit developing. Then I got the Browns going at 8-9. Yes, Deshaun Watson, he has came back since not having played football in over 300 something days. I do think the Browns still need a lot of improvements so far. Deshaun Watson, there'll be little glimpses of here doing a little bit better, but I do feel they'll just fall just a little bit short.
Yeah, I'm roughly about the same. I think in playoff implications we'll have some disagreements here, but for me, easily the same. The Bengals have been running this division for the past 3 years, and I see that to continue right here. I got them at 13-4. Got them at the top of the AFC for me. Might be a hot take to some, but it's reasonable. We see how this team's just been on the rise ever since the Super Bowl run. I got the Steelers and Ravens both at 9-8, but I'll have the Steelers with a tiebreaker getting into second. I agree with you. I feel a lot of great in Kenny Pickett. I wanted to see if I could sneak him into the playoffs, but I really don't. I'm not really sold just yet. Maybe the next season, make some moves. I don't know, because I know obviously we know TJ Watt. He's been really a big anchor on this defense, and it's not gonna be enough. And obviously, agreeing with you, the Browns, Deshaun Watson just hasn't been enough. It's probably a failed trade, and we'll see, I guess, when they build. But moving on to the AFC East, this one, it's at least at the top, probably not too much controversy. I got the Bills taking a little bit of a dip, though. I'm gonna have them at 11-6. I'll have them dipping just a little bit, but the fun part gets down the middle. I got the Dolphins 10-7. Obviously, the big move was Jalen Ramsey. Releasing my Rams for just a third rounder and a tight end. It was that's gonna work magic for them. I think Tua is gonna bounce back from the concussions, and obviously I'm gonna have them edging out the Jets in this division. I really think Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be too much of a factor. I mean, sure, he'll get them some wins. It'll be obviously a major improvement from Zach Wilson and just the quarterback carousel they had going on last season. But I'm going to have them just missing the playoffs at 8-9. And as for the Patriots, I have them at 7-10. I don't really expect much from them. Might see Bill Belichick getting fired. Obviously, legacy intact and everything, but might be time to move on. Let each side go their separate ways.
Yeah, so obviously with mine, I'm going to agree with you too. I do have the Bills taking the division at 13-4. So I do think Josh Allen is going to have another great season. But again, the thing with Josh Allen, that if he is able to conserve those interceptions, I do have the Bills going at 13-4 with a pretty great defense by their side. But again, they are playing in a very tough conference. So, but still, I do got them getting a 13-4 spot. I do have Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. That connection, I do think it's going to take them far. And same with you. I got the Dolphins taking the second spot at the division. I do have them making the playoffs as well, but we'll leave that for the playoff video. I got them going at 11-6. Yes, people, that Tua is not going to be the same, with all the concussions he has, but I do think he'll have a great bounce back. I do. His connection with Tyreek and Waddle will improve, and like you said, the blockbuster with Jalen Ramsey. Even though he will miss the first couple games of the season, I do think Jalen Ramsey will be the center point of that defense. Then the Jets, probably arguably the best trade that happened this season in terms of a player, Aaron Rodgers. I do have the Jets barely missing the playoffs, but I do have them going 10-7. Yes, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's one of the greats, but in my eyes, I didn't see him as, Tom Brady going to the Bucs, changing that team, getting to that Super Bowl. I do think it's just going to be shy with Rodgers. In the same agreement with you with the Patriots, I think this is probably the fall of the Patriots dynasty. Sure, yes, Belichick's his legacy is intact with the 7 rings he did get, but with how the Mac Jones situation and their receiving threats and that defense, who had a great defense in a couple years ago, but signs of inconsistency there. So I do got the Patriots going at 9-8. Now moving on to the next division, the South, which was one of the worst divisions last year, but I do got the Jaguars taking the division at 11-6. Newly acquired Calvin Ridley. Sure, he hasn't played football in a year after the gambling situation, but I do feel that he would have a slight bounce back in that connection to T-Law. People saying that it's overrated, T-Law and Ridley, that they're already getting overrated, not having to play at stat. But, T-Law, he has improved since his rookie year, but I feel like his connection with Ridley, I feel that will help improve the offense a little bit. And then looking at the defense, there are some flaws in the corners, but the defense could just be there to take the division for them. Then I got the Colts, Anthony Richardson, rookie quarterback. I got them going 9-8. There's not a lot of hope for Richardson. I do see some hope for Richardson. He's probably going to prove people wrong, but looking at this Colts team, there are just a lot of missing pieces for them. So I do got them going at 9-8. And then the Tennessee Titans. I honestly think Tannehill is not going to be that guy for them. Sure, yes, they did get Malik Willis. Just a couple years ago, literally just I think it was 2 years ago.
Last year.
Excuse me. There you go. They do have him, and then they got Will Levis this year as well. So obviously those two, they're gonna compete for that spot. I don't think Tannehill's gonna be enough. Derrick Henry, we see how the running backs are right now. They're not gonna last that long. Running into the ground, like how the Cowboys ran Zeke down to the ground, it's just not gonna work a lot. So there's a lot of miscues with the Tennessee Titans. So I do gotta go at 8-9. And then the Texans, again, rookie quarterback CJ Stroud coming from Ohio State. There is a lot of bad rep with Ohio State quarterbacks. CJ Stroud, hope he does great. But again, this is another example. With the situation with the Texans we saw they were last year with the quarterback situation. Their defense was just horrendous. The offense really wasn't clicking. CJ Stroud, slight improvement from last year, but I do got him going at 6-11.
Yeah, I mean, for the order, we're spot on. I'm gonna agree exactly. There's not much competition for Trevor Lawrence in this division. At least, the quarterbacks. I do see bright futures for the 2 quarterbacks that just got drafted in this division, but they're just coming in. They need time to make their mark on the league. So at least for probably the next 2 years, I do think the Jaguars, barring anything else, I think they have this division locked up. I got them at 10-7. I do have the Colts obviously in the second spot. I have hope for Richardson, but I think 8-9. It's nothing yet this season. The Titans, I really don't see Derrick Henry really doing much. It's going to be all up to him. What you mentioned about the quarterbacks, I really see Will Levis, maybe Malik Willis, but with how he looked last season, I don't expect him to get much. I almost expect him to get that same fate that Matt Corral got with the Panthers, but I'll probably see Will Levis making it by week 11. And the Texans, despite everything about Ohio State quarterbacks, I do see some hope for CJ Stroud. I mean, we see Justin Fields; he's been thriving. I do think he's gonna have some success, and we also see Will Anderson, two great pickups in the draft, but it's really not going to be enough for them. I see them at 5-12, and they don't even have their first round pick this year, so it's going to the Cardinals. It's going to be hard for them to keep building. But moving on to the AFC West, this is probably one of the best divisions in football at the moment. No change for me at the top. I'm going to have the Chiefs. Slight dip in their record. I'll have them at 12-5. The division's getting stronger. The AFC in general is very strong, so they might lose a couple games in the regular season, but easily they'll keep that division. I'll keep the Chargers again, just a game behind them at 11-6. I expect Justin Herbert to keep at least. I mean, sure, we see what happened in the wild card game, the massive blown lead, but I see them bouncing back strong and keeping that keeping their playoff spot. In the third spot, I will have Russell Wilson bouncing back, and I have the Broncos going 10-7. I do have them sneaking into the playoffs, so we'll get into that later. But it was just tough. Nathaniel Hackett was a horrible pick to lead that team, and with Sean Payton, a guy that's really setting the tone. I really do see them having success. Probably not too much, especially in a really tough division, but I expect the Broncos to definitely be better than last season, of course. And as for the Raiders, not much hope there. Losing their franchise quarterback for a couple years. I mean, you downgrade to Jimmy Garoppolo. I've never been a big fan of him since his time on the Niners. I don't expect much. I mean, sure, you kept Jacobs, but I mean, there's not much to look forward to. I mean, hey, maybe Max Crosby can make a run at Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, so we have almost about same little swaps there, but same with me. I do have the Chiefs once again. They're reigning the AFC conference. I do have them going at 14-2. This time, though, I do feel Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and then Sky Moore and Isaiah Pacheco, who have been on the rise since last year. I do feel they're going to have really great bounces. They're going to have great bounces that season. And the offense is obviously going to overshadow that defense. Going to be a lot of close games, but I do have the Chiefs, which is my number 1 seed. But we'll leave that obviously for the next video. And then same with me, I do have the Broncos sneaking into the playoffs at 11-6. Russell Wilson, he's going to have a really big bounce back. His connection with you have Jerry Jeudy, you have Courtland Sutton. To me, Courtland Sutton has always been an underrated player to me. So that connection with those two receivers is going to be big. And then obviously PS2, Patrick Surtain on the leader on the defense. Sure, you can say leader, but he's the main, again, center point of that defense. So I do got him going at 11-6 with a very huge bounce back from last season. And I have the Chargers at 10-7, slightly missing the playoffs. Justin Herbert, he's good. Don't get me wrong. But he really hasn't done much for the Chargers franchise right now. He got that big contract, you can say it's well-deserved. You can say too much money. Whatever you say, you have your own thoughts, right? And looking at defense, it's a good defense. But again, with Justin Herbert, I just don't think he'll be able to finish to sneak into that playoffs. And then agreeing with you once again, the Raiders. Trading Derek Carr, and then getting Jimmy G. Jimmy G, obviously, there's glimpses of him doing good. But once again, we talked about how Jimmy G and the pressure, I don't think it's going to do a lot. And then with that Raiders defense, that Raiders defense when Carr was with the team since 2014, he's had a bottom defense for that long. He's never had a defense outside the 27th. I feel with Jimmy G, he's going to have the same problem. That defense isn't going to be there to help him like how that defense helped him in the 49ers. So I do have the Raiders getting at 7-10. Tiny improvement, but that defense is really going to stump him.
Yeah, so obviously we're going to move on into the NFC, and we'll start with the NFC North. This one, I mean, for me, it's a lot of changes. I got a lot to get off for this one. For me, I'm going to have the Lions winning it. We saw how much growth we saw with Dan Campbell. He really set a new culture in this Detroit team. Jared Goff, sure, he might not be their long-term answer, but right now he's a great placeholder, and he's a great game manager for them. They lost a great running back in Williams, but overall they're going to keep that pace. I barely have them edging out the Bears. Of course, I had them at 11-6. I got the Bears at 10-7. I see a great leap for Fields in this season. Of course, I do have them sneaking in as the 6th seed. I don't think they'll do much, but they can easily make some noise if they get hot. Now, and probably one of my bigger takes down at the bottom, I got the Vikings at 8-9. I really think this, after what we saw, a lot of the flaws that Kirk Cousins and this team in general had near the end of the season last year, and of course their big loss against the Giants in the playoffs, I really kind of lost hope in the Vikings. I think this is going to be it after the season for Kirk Cousins. Surprised they didn't make more of a push for Trey Lance to keep something back in the mind for the future, but I see them struggling this season, and I really do think it's the end of the line for Kirk after this year. And the Packers, I don't really have much to say. I know you do have hope for Jordan Love, at least not this season for me just yet. Maybe come the future he could start contesting and see what the Lions end up doing. But I think the Packers, it just isn't going to be their year. I think it's probably a good spot for them. They could see what they can build on in the draft, but I got a lot of big moves in the North this year.
Yeah, so obviously, how you said right now, I do have, lots of hope for Jordan Love. I do think he would be great. That's why I do have the Packers taking the North at 11-6. Obviously, Jordan Love, he was under Aaron Rodgers for his time in Green Bay, and obviously he should have got at least, mentorship, you could say. Sure, I do got the playoffs. That we'll leave that for obviously the next video, but I do think Jordan Love, he'll make a big stride. So I do get him at the top of the North at 11-6. Then with my next pick, I actually have the Vikings sneaking in as well. Obviously how last season, how they were pretenders. We saw how horrible their defense was, the amount of close. We always talked about this in the recaps, how many close games they got into. But obviously they have a monster receiver at Justin Jefferson, and then newly added rookie receiver Jordan Anderson from USC, I believe.
Yep.
He's got some hope. He's got some signs. So two potentially great one great weapon, two potentially great weapons for Kirk Cousins. Obviously, to me, I've always, Kirk Cousins in his time with Minnesota, sure, he had, some inconsistency. He was overrated, but it'll just be enough to get him into the playoffs. And I do have the Lions at 9-8 with the tiebreaker with the Bears. Now, obviously, how me and you, we talked a lot of good stuff about the Lions last season. We saw some hope. We saw Jared Goff with improvement. We saw his receiving core but obviously, once again, another team whose defense was very horrid. They're bottom in the league in almost everything. But obviously, again, another example, they are a team that's just missing something. Then obviously the Bears, I got to go at 9-8, dead last at the division. Sure, they did get DJ Moore from the Carolina Panthers this offseason. But when you're looking at Justin Fields, sure, you can say he's underrated. But looking at how it was, sure, he had no O-line. He was running for his life. Really no receiver threats. I mean, his main target was Chase Claypool. And the guy barely got him at the trade deadline from the Steelers. So I do have him at the bottom of the division at 9-8. Hopefully he can prove me wrong, but I just don't feel Justin Fields is that guy. Now, obviously, moving on to my division, the NFC East. Now, sure, call me biased. But again, I have my Cowboys at the top at 13-4. Now, looking at this defense, looking at this offense, we saw Dak Prescott, the interceptions. That's the biggest story that was. But what people don't look at is how many interceptions were really his fault. About 8 interceptions were not quarterback fault. There were receiver drops. There was a receiver catch that ended up coming out of his hands. And that happened a lot of times. Sure, yes, the others were his fault, and it was really looking bad at him since he did miss 6 games. But in new addition, Brandon Cooks, he's an overqualified receiver 3, and I mean that in a good way because he deserves to be a receiver 1 at a different team, but he's looking great. So with CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup finally coming back healthy 100% from his ACL injury in 2021 against the Cardinals, then Brandon Cooks at the 3rd spot. 3 great weapons with Dak Prescott and hopefully Tony Pollard, dude. And looking at this defense, the Cowboys have never had that great of a defense since, the glory days in the 90s, which I wasn't alive to see. It was really great defense. Dak's had a arguably top 5 defense the past 2 years. This defense is gonna last long. Micah, but you got stars at every position. Micah Parsons, newly added Stephon Gilmore, Jaron Kearse, Landon Vander Esch, DeMarcus Lawrence, and then new rookie again, Mozzie Smith. Very overpowered, very great defense that's neck to neck with the Niners. But it all relies on Dak Prescott, and I do think he will have a very great bounce back season. And I got him going at 13-4. Now, the 2nd seed, I do got the Philadelphia Eagles. I do got him going at just a slight little slump at 11-6. They lost a lot of key players at defense. They're both coordinators, the offense and defense. Both head coaches now. Stefanski, he's a good coach. Has a big mouth. Kind of gets annoying when I see him on Sirianni, excuse me. I don't know. I always get those 2 names mixed up. But, with Jalen Hurts, you got Devonta Smith, and then you got A.J. Brown. 2 huge guys, 2 big connections he has. And obviously, he's dual threat. He's a great thrower. He shined last year. And hopefully he can, I really wasn't allowed, but sure. Save he's a system with the amount of key players he has. And then looking at that defense, you had a bunch of guys from Georgia. You got, I think it was Jalen Carter, who's a really big name for that defense. But obviously the rookies, who knows? Obviously, they'd always do good. But because of them losing so many key potential players on defense, I do got them going at a slight slump. But obviously they do got a playoff spot in my bracket. And then going down to the Commanders, I do have them going at a big leap from last year at 9-8. Sam Howell could potentially be the future of the Commanders. But looking at this team, you see their defense. I feel that the defense is getting overrated. We saw it last year. A lot of people saying that defense was going to be great. Look how that turned out. The offense, sure, you got Josh Doxson at the receiving end, and then you got Terry McLaurin. Two great receivers, but you got Sam Howell throwing at them. Obviously, it just won't be enough, so I got them going at 9-8. And then the Giants, I do have them declining at 8-9. You saw how Danny Dimes, he did get that huge contract extension. Lots of different, lots of different opinions on it. But I do have the Giants really slumping. Looking at this defense, again, the defense, it's very inconsistent. Danny Dimes is also very inconsistent. So it's a very big decline for the Giants, and obviously they're going to be out in the offseason. If I am correct, it seems like a big change with Danny Dimes even after that contract extension.
Yeah, so that's a good bit of yapping about the Cowboys. I'm gonna have roughly the same idea, but I'm gonna swap the top two. Same record as you. I got the Eagles maintaining the NFC East. No, you love to say hasn't been a repeat champion since 06, 07. Don't remember exactly, but I see that changing this year. I see how much they lost on defense. I'll take them still. I mean, all the pieces they gained in the draft. Mainly for me, Jalen Carter, which we'll get more into later, but I really like him with his chances at Rookie of the Year. Just in general, I really can't bet against Jalen Hurts. He is obviously a great candidate for MVP. He probably would have won MVP last season if it wasn't for his injury, but I see him keeping pace. They'll probably split the record with the Cowboys, but I easily see a pretty smooth run for the Eagles to take the division. And as for your Cowboys, I see a lot of great things. I'm not really going to go into too much depth because obviously you explained it perfectly, but mainly for me it's their defense is great. That's going to be the key contributor. As long as not only if Dak can contain the turnovers, but if his receivers can help him maintain those turnovers, if they can actually help him not making as many silly mistakes as they do, tipping the ball straight into corners and safeties' hands. But I still see a great season for the Cowboys. As for the Giants, I have them at 9-8, just a little better than you, but I have them regressing a bit, missing the playoffs. Not much. I mean, they had a great year last year. They'll probably be back in the next season, but I believe it's just a little regression, a sophomore slump for Brian Daboll. And as for the Commanders, I don't really see much. I like Sam Howell. I like what it's looking, but I just don't really see them contending at least for the next 2-3 years. And it's just going to be another layover year, see what they can do in the offseason coming forward. But we'll move over into probably one of the easier divisions to call it harder because everyone's probably equally mediocre. The NFC South. For me, the lesser of four evils, I'm gonna go with the Saints. I really like what they're doing right now. I mean, main thing for me, the move for Derek Carr. He's say what you like. We always love shitting on the Raiders, but he was a bright spot. I've always had a great spot for Derek Carr. He is a great quarterback, not elite, but he's serviceable. He's a great guy. But the main thing, what you stress so much about the Raiders in that part of this video, he's finally getting a better defense. That's going to be the key thing here. I mean, I still have them at a 9-8 record. I don't think they're gonna wow the league, but they're gonna easily win the division because that division is so mediocre. All it takes, you can have a losing record to win this division. Now moving on, I'm gonna say the Panthers at 8-9 is the second. Bryce Young's not gonna wow everyone, but I still think he's gonna have a great season. He's gonna have a couple key games, and we'll see what the loss of DJ Moore is gonna do to this. It would have been a great weapon to have, but obviously they have to give him up to get him with that number 1 pick. With the Falcons, that's another situation. It's rough to see. Desmond Ridder, won't he be the answer for them? It's just it's up in limbo. We'll see what the deal is gonna be here, but I'm leaning towards a 6-7 record, a 6-11 record for them. And the Buccaneers, say what you want about this pick. I love Baker, don't get me wrong, but I just the regression after losing Tom Brady is going to be brutal for them, and I'm going to have them at 5-12.
Yeah, so once again, little swaps for me. So I do have the same, again, winning the division at 10-7. I don't know how, like I said before, like how you mentioned right now, Derek Carr, with that Saints defense, it's pretty decent. He finally has a decently defense that can actually go on, help the team win. But obviously, looking at the offense, you do have Chris Olave, who's going to be his number one target. Then obviously recently added Jimmy Graham, the walking fossil, Jimmy Graham, back at tight end. Hopefully he can have a little glimpses of there where he'll go back to his old self, but really highly doubt that. So they'll just barely sneak their way in to the playoffs. And then with me, I actually have the Bucs at the second spot at 7-10. You know how last season we had our love for Baker. We really wanted him to succeed, but there was just something there that really wasn't clicking with them. And obviously, you had your time with the Rams, with him beating the Raiders on that one Thursday night that I know you were very excited about. But obviously, with the loss of Tom Brady, they're really going to go back to being mid. Really don't see anything good about the Bucs right there. So I do got to go at the flat 7-10. Hopefully the defense, can possibly help them there. We saw how good their defense was in the beginning last season, but there just wasn't enough there. Then with me, I have the Panthers at 6-11. Obviously Bryce Young, coming fresh rookie quarterback. Obviously everyone's offensive rookie of the year. But obviously looking at how the Panthers are with, I feel they do have an underrated defense. They do have very key players. But again, it just won't be enough to help them, contend this season. And Bryce Young, obviously with the loss of DJ Moore, really doesn't have any, viable weapons on both sides of the ball. The running back situation is a little iffy as well. And then obviously with the Falcons, I got him dead last at 14-13. Desmond Ridder, I really don't see much with him. I really don't think there's going to be much going on with him, especially looking at that offense and then that defense with the Falcons. I just don't see them really doing anything this season whatsoever.
So now, of course, onto my division. You got to start the East. I'll get into my personal takes of the West. First things first, the Niners are easily gonna keep this division. I will say I do expect Brock Purdy to have a sophomore slump. I don't see him as dominant as last season, which can't really say that dominant. He had that defense backing him up. He had a great supporting cast, but I see him dropping off a bit. 12-5. I'll see them as a 2 seed, but the Niners usually take division. Now, where everyone comes at me, I have the Rams at 10-7. It's a bit biased, yes, but I do believe that. The offense is the key factor here. Having Stafford back, we'll see how good he is. How much he can, how much he's got left in the tank. He's nearing the end. We'll see if this season's going to be a good factor of him. We know he's just going to be throwing to Cooper Kupp mainly, but he does have Puka Nacua, a great rookie we picked up. I hope to see some growth from Tutu Atwell, and of course Van Jefferson, he's been a solid second option. We'll see how much growth we got in the O-line. That's going to be my biggest factor. If we have growth in the O-line, I have really high hopes for Cam Akers. But if the O-line stays the same, I see the run game back to what it was. And as for the defense, that's going to be my main concern. Aaron Donald can only do so much, and when he's getting double, triple teamed, no one else on the defense really has anything to do. I do love Trey Tomlinson, of course, a nephew of LaDainian Tomlinson. A great pickup on defense. One of the steals of the draft, I believe. He's a great corner. I do see some good growth for him, but regardless, I don't see too much from this defense, so that's what's going to keep us back. But I'll see the Rams at 10-7 as, best case scenario. They could drop, but that's this team's best case scenario. The Seahawks, I see Geno regressing. I'll see that at 9-8, just behind the Rams. I'll see them splitting the season meetings, but I just do believe the Seahawks will regress. They obviously do have great the great rookies from last season. Walker and their corner. I forget. Well, there we go. Woolen and Walker, great rookies, and they just got more room to grow. But I just see a slight regression there. And of course, the Cardinals. I got them at 2-15. I have absolutely no hope for them. They say Kyler's only out, that he's only confirmed out 4 weeks, but we know it's going to be way more than that. Or I think they said 6 weeks, give or take. But yeah, he's going to be out for most of the season. And with two rookies that they're trotting up, that it could be one or the other to start the season, I really see no hope at this point. Just tank for Caleb Williams. See what you can get for Kyler in the offseason. See if you can trade him eventually. But I think their answer is going to just be, tank for Caleb Williams.
Yeah, so I will agree with you. I do have the Niners. Without a doubt, not even arguably, for sure it's their division, but I do got a slight regression. I got them going 11-6. We saw Brock Purdy's injury in the conference championship with against the Eagles with this. I think it was his finger or his thumb.
It was his UCL.
UCL, excuse me. I don't know why I thought it was something. Yeah, it's his arm.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I do think that's really gonna be the kick, the shot in the foot for the Niners. We see how great their defense is, but they did lose. I think it was DeMeco Ryans, the defensive coordinator, who is now the coach of the Houston Texans. I still do think the Niners is probably arguably going to be. Now I wouldn't say this time they will be one just because of the coordinator. They will for sure be a top 3 defense next season, but I feel like Brock Purdy would be the reason why those 6 losses could potentially be on him, but still got the division to them. Then with the second sneaking in with the playoffs once again, I do have the Seahawks at 10-7, so just minuscule improvement. We saw Geno Smith, we looked at him, everyone was rooting for him. But again, the defense is young. You had Tariq Woolen at the cornerback position, who's arguably, I'm not gonna say leader. I'm gonna say once again center point of that defense. And then obviously they did get Bobby Wagner back. Once again, he is back home at the linebacker position. He is the leader of the defense, I would say, since he's the veteran with the more experience. But again, it depends on Geno Smith. Hopefully DK Metcalf could, help Geno Smith a little bit better. But just slight improvement that just snuck the way in there. And then obviously I got your Rams at 8-9. Obviously Matthew Stafford coming from that big injury. He still, hopefully he still does great with them. Van Jefferson, he still has hope for him. Tutu Atwell, hopefully that could be some potential weapons for Stafford, but it just won't be enough. And then obviously same with you, Cardinals. I'm gonna be nice and I'm gonna give them 3 wins. I'll give him 3-14. Obviously, it's the Kyler situation. He's going to be out for way more than 4 weeks. It's a really big injury that he's going to recover from. And then this defense is it's not looking great. The offense isn't looking great either. It just really has no hope. And at that point, like you said, Caleb Williams is going to be the potential spot for the Cardinals. And with that wrapping up our season predictions, it's going to wrap up this video. We'll have the playoff predictions uploaded little hopefully the next day or 2. But yeah, these are our predictions. Hopefully, so we did have some pretty bold takes here and there, little cold ones, but just for the fun of it.
Yeah, of course. Like you said, we'll get the playoff video soon. Throw our award winners there, and yeah, just obviously, football's right around. Can't wait for that to happen. Get it all out and get back into the group with the weekly videos. So, not much more being said. Hope y'all stick around for the coming season, and that'll be it for this one.